Hello everybody and welcome back to the M146 mainframe channel. This is M146. Today we're going to set up a Telnet game server. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a brand new Linux server up in the cloud, and then we're going to set it up with several ASCII games. So this is all about ASCII. That's the one you can see here on the screen right now, and so people can telnet into the server and then choose one of these games that we have available. Maybe over time we'll add more. Right now we have Zork 1, Zork 2, Zork 3, an ASCII Aquarium, and Star Wars. And then they can choose one, and then they can play those games in ASCII over the Telnet connection from their Windows laptop or Windows computer or Linux computer. And then we'll see how to set this up. So the task is how to set up Telnet on a Linux server. Telnet used to be the standard way to connect to a remote computer. Now it's of course mostly SSH for security reasons. Telnet doesn't have any encryption of the link, so everybody in the middle can listen in and of course copy the passwords. But we're also going to see how to write a menu system, a very simple menu system using nothing but shell script. This is all done in shell script. And the third thing we're going to learn today is how soon a server is immediately attacked by hackers, mostly from countries like China, Afghanistan, Cambodia, and other countries like that, and how you can protect your server up to a certain point, obviously, but how you can stop about 85 to 90% of all those countries' attacks on your server. This, of course, on that server that I'm going to set up, there's nothing there other than the games themselves, so that nothing to be stolen on those servers. But of course, hackers could gain entry to the servers and use them as jump servers for nefarious purposes. So this is what we're going to do. So we're going to set up this Telnet game server, which includes setting up the Telnet server, which includes programming the menu to select and make it harden it a little bit so people cannot get out of the menu and have a shell from which they can try to attack the server itself, and then of course a little bit of protection. How do we do all that? So let's get going. I have here a brand new server in the cloud, which I called Play, and we're going to see from there how to set it up. This is the first time ever I'm logging into this machine. Okay, so we're in. As you can see, this has been up about 10 minutes. I just set it up. I'm gonna make the fonts a little bit bigger so you can more easily follow. Let's see here, appearance. Yeah, let's change that to maybe 18. Hope this works for you out there. If not, then let me know now, shout. Okay, so first things first, let's give this an update. This is running in the Google Cloud, so it's actually quite fast. And now let's go see set up Telnet server on Ubuntu. I'm running Ubuntu 16.4, which is more than enough. This machine, by the way, is a very small machine. Let's install the first packages. htop, vmon, nmon, unzip. What else do we need? That's it for now. So you can see it's quite fast. So this machine only has half a gigabyte of RAM, which is plenty, especially for Ubuntu 16.04. I could also use Ubuntu 14.04, but that's what I'm using here right now. So it's half a gigabyte of memory, and it's a virtual CPU, meaning that it's only using fraction of virtual CPU on the Google Cloud. So I'm paying for this instance about $4 a month if it's running all the time. So it's really cheap. Everybody can afford an instance to play with. So we got this done. And now let's see what it says here about setting up a Telnet server. Okay, so what we need to install is xinetd and Telnet daemon. Those are not default installed anymore, so we go and install those. Oops. Hope you can follow here. So this is the command: apt install xinetd and Telnet daemon. So now it's installing those. That's it. That's already done. Now we have to set it up. And of course there is some configuration files we need to set up. So copy. So we can have up to 60 instances running, and we log to syslog. Okay, so let's get this, maybe we make this a little bit smaller so we can have both on the screen. Well, where are we? Not this one. Well, this is my jump server here at home, and I have to log in again. Compute. Okay. And we said we'll make the font 18. Sorry for something there. Okay. So we'll go now and change the configuration file for xinetd. xinetd is a more modern version of the inetd that has been around in Unix for a long time. You could also still install the old inetd on Linux, but this has some new and more secure features. Okay, so we copied this over. We can also add some other security features here. So for instance, we can block some hosts, but we're going to block the hosts on with the Linux firewall directly. So that's all good. Okay. And now we have to enable the Telnet server on port 23. That's a standard Telnet port. Should already be set up, but just to make sure. Yes, it's already there. As you can see, Telnet 23 is there by default, even though the Telnet server is not configured, but Ubuntu has that already, so we don't have to do anything. The only thing we need to do now is we need to create the configuration file for the Telnet server. So that resides in etc xinetd telnet. Okay. Telnet, that doesn't exist yet, so that's why we're creating it. Okay. Here we could again say what we want to disable, what we don't want to do. So we don't want this to be disabled, we want this to be available. It's running as user root. Of course, we could set up, if you wanted to make this extra safe, we could run this inside a jail, meaning that it cannot see the root file system above it. And by the way, I have a video about this. M146 YouTube setting up stateless logins, something like that. Yes. If you go to this video M40, I'm showing how to set up a stateless login with Docker containers, so that every user logs in gets her own Docker container, and if you follow this, then this would make it even safer, so that people would always have a stateless container. Every time they log off, the container is destroyed and recreated again upon every new login. That would be the safest way to do it. And so you can watch here this video on how to get this done. So we got the Telnet server set up. As you can see here, you can also have lines like only login from certain IPs, no access from certain other IPs, but I'm gonna block people from the Linux firewall directly. So, and now we can restart the Telnet server, and what I want to show you is that immediately, maybe we'll set up a new session. What I want to show you is that immediately when I start the Telnet server, you will see probably within 2 to 3 minutes, hackers will find the server and will start to try to break into the machine. So let's go there as a second session. So what you can do is tail -f var log authentication log. So we'll run this here now, and as soon as we enable the server, you will see that people will start to within minutes. So let's restart the server. Okay, now if I do telnet localhost, yes. Okay, so now the Telnet server is already up and running. The next thing we want to do is we want to set up a user just for the game, so for the game user. So we do add user guest. We call it guest 1 is the password, guest 1, guest game user, room number, okay, so now the user is set up, and we see here that the log is telling us that we added the user. And what I want to see is how soon the hackers will start to log in, so we can keep an eye on this. So now we also have the user, and we should see it here. Yes, so we have the user is set up. Now the next thing is we want to have a kind of a menu to show when user log in. How do we do that? So the basic way to have people be presented with something is you give them a shell that's not a standard shell like a bash or a shell, but you give them a script that you wrote, and you make this to be the standard shell for that user. So when they log in, they're immediately calling that script, so that becomes their shell. And so what we're going to do is here I'm going to show you how to set up a simple dialog based menu for the user to see upon her login. So I'm going to go and copy this from another place. Okay. So that's make me the font a little bit smaller so I can copy it all. Just for just a second, bear with me here. Oops, what happened here? That's the whole script. So now we set up here and I put it in bin because of course that's a shell that needs to be accessible for the user upon login without having an environment variable set up yet. So that it needs, in this case, it goes into bin. And we call it the Mania Shell. Okay. So several things here. Let's see what happens. First of all, I trap the Control C. Right, that's the way to control to trap the Control C, so the user cannot just press Control C while she's in that menu here that we've seen. So this is what it's going to present, and we don't want the user to be able to press Control C and get out of that and be just on a normal shell on that server. So we want them to be trapped in here, and this is how we do it. So that's why we call it a trap. Then I set up a temporary file in the TMP file system, and then we use the Dialog program. Now I don't think that Dialog is installed by default, so let's install it. Let me try first. Dialog. Yeah, it's not installed. That's it. That was fast. So now it's installed. Yeah, and Dialog has a way to present menus, kind of like the installer menus when you install Linux, like the Ubuntu installer menus, or even the Ubuntu installer menus. Those are all done with Dialog. There's other options, but I like Dialog. I'm not a great expert at it, but I know it reasonably well to get things done. So for now, let's do enable trap, the Control C, so we can break out of things. So now we should be able, let's change it to executable menu. So now if I do say menu, I'm presented with this. The reason why you see blue is because I change all blue to yellow, because it's easier to read on black background for you folks. But usually if you Telnet from any other machine, on any other machine, this will be blue here. So as you can see here, this is the menu. Okay, so this works. So let's see what happens here in this menu. So I create a temp file, and then I present this dialog. So this is the dialog, and there's a title. It clears the screen, and then it presents a radio list with all the options. I have Zork 1, Zork 2, Zork 3, Aquarium, Star Wars, and Exit. Now, and cancel is going to be automatically added by the Dialog program. So the radio list is like this. So we can actually make a copy of this and play with something else. So we can call it VI Dialog. And make it like real simple. And say option 1. On, and then we have option 2 off, and then exit. Okay, so now if we display, again, sorry for the blue here, for the yellow, it should be blue. We can actually do this easy if we do term VT100 yes. So now we made the color disappear because we're only emulating a VT100 terminal. So here, this is what this very simple line, with one line of code, you can do all this, right? We can have what we're going to show in here can be set, the title itself, and the options, and then the OK and cancel that's provided by the command itself. So we can play with it again, make it even. Okay. And again, term equals VT100 to remove the color. As you can see here, much simpler. We can also do something like, instead of radio list, we could have checklist, I think it's called. Yes, so now you can actually, one is set because we set on for the first option and off for the two others, but we could actually select more than one. But in our menu, since the game can only be one of the four, in our real world example here, we have to use radio list, we can't use checklist because it has to be one option, only one of them can be selected, and if you select any others, you see it deselects the previous one, and that's the behavior we want, right? So so that's just to show you the power of this dialogue program. There's a lot of things you can do. There's hundreds of options. You can also do a progress bar if you're running a program and you want to show the progress. You can have user input, you can have calendar, many things that you can do with this dialogue. So it's a very simple way to set up a dialogue system on the terminal without doing a lot of C programming. So let's look again at what we have here, and let's keep an eye when the hackers have started to try to break in. It's not going to take long, just a couple of minutes. So we present this dialogue, then whatever the user selects is written into the temporary file we set up here, and then if the user pressed on cancel, then of course we exit, and then we read from the temp file the selection, and we say if the selection that was written to the file was Zork 1, because they have to see here, they have to select one, and so of these options, and so if they select Zork 1, then Zork 1 is going to be written in the temporary file. If they select Star Wars, then the word Star Wars is going to be written into the temporary file. And then we just read from the temporary file and put the answer in retval. Here they are. So they've already found us and already started to try to break in, but they're using still SSH. They haven't used the Telnet yet. Oh no, this is just cron tab. Okay, well, let's keep an eye on this. They will come soon enough. We will see them soon. So then we read the answer from the temporary file, and then if it's Zork 1, then we just execute a game emulator for the Zork 1, for the Infocom Zork 1 interpreter, and then we have Zork 1, Zork 2, Zork 3. If people want Aquarium, then we launch this game. If people want Star Wars, then we telnet to moshix.dino.net, where I have the Star Wars in ASCII running there. And if it's exit, then we just exit. Now the last part is if people want to exit, then we exit 0, which means they get out of the shell, which automatically logs them off from the Telnet session. So we never want them to fall back to shell or bash shell environment. If they exit the program, the menu, they have to fall back to the place where they came from. And if they finish with nothing other than these choices, then we'll automatically restart the menu. Okay. Actually, we can change that here. Okay. So that's what happens here. It's very simple. Shell script, you can see, and just maybe 30 lines long. And what we do is we catch the control C, so people will be trapped in there and either have to play a game or log out again. So as we can see here now, we're starting to have some people try to log in, and yeah, so they're already here. They already found us. This took what, like 5 minutes, 4 minutes. As you can see, they will now incessantly continue to try to break in until they get in, and we will soon see how to protect ourselves from this kind of people who are trying to break in. The intensity will increase over time, so let's just keep an eye on it here. Oops. Let's put it here. I don't know why Windows 10 insists on making all my windows maximum size when I drag them. Such an annoying behavior. But let's keep an eye on it here and see what else we need to do. So the Zork games, they need to be set up, and there is an emulator for Zork which is called Frotz, and we need to install it. So apt install Frotz will take care of that for us. And then we also need to copy over as you can see here now, they're really starting. It took them only like 5 minutes to find us. It's unbelievable. So let's go get the games and let's install them on this server. So the way to do it is to copy them over from my server here. Okay, so those are the Zork games, and now we're gonna copy them over into our new play server. Okay. Yes, here they are. So now we move all this over to the directory of the user guest. That's it, and we make them so now we can become guest. Okay, so now for the first time we've logged in as guest. Yeah, they're trying here all the time, but we'll get them. So I make a directory called Zork, and I move all the zip files into that directory. But the installation is really simple, and we unzip everything. Okay, so now we will have in data the DAT files. These are the games themselves. As you know, Zork were written by Infocom back in the 70s in an instruction interpreter and an emulator, basically, so that they could make them portable across different architectures. It was running on the PDP-11. It was running on the VAX machines. I even have a version of this running on VM370 and ZVM even. So it was smart of them to write an interpreter and then write the games themselves in the interpreter instructions. So now we have them here, and that's good, because if you look at menu, our menu script, they're actually running, it executes the Zork interpreter in home guest Zork data. So that's now properly running. And so if we do frots and then we do home guest Zork data Zork 1, yes, so this works. We're now inside Zork, the great underground empire by Infocom, and we are standing in an open field west of a White House with a boarded front door. There's a small mailbox there, open mailbox. There's a leaflet, a read leaflet. Zork is a game of adventure. Yeah. So this is the game. This all works. And so now the menu works. So if we do term equals 100 bin menu, and if we select Zork, yes. So we are now inside Zork. Okay, so this all works fine. Now the last thing we need to do is to make the user guest have, as the standard shell, the login shell, have the menu script as its standard login shell. So how do we do that? We need to become root for that, and we say change shell for guest. And what do we want it to be? Now this is the important part. We say change shell. This is a Linux command for user guest, and we say it's menu dot shell. That's the shell for that user. That's it. If you go now and see in the user list, you will see here that the standard shell for this user, for other users it's bash, right? But for this user it's bin menu. So when that user logs in, we can do that now. Equals 100 telnet localhost user. It says here Ubuntu 16.04 LTS. So we use it as guest 1, and we present it with the menu. And if we log out, we cannot do any Control C. Oh, we remove the. No, that's fine. So if you press Control C, we actually get back to where we were. So that's fine. Just making sure that we have. Oh no, we need to trap it. The trap was disabled. Okay, so let's try this again. We see here, and it shows us that we're logging in from localhost from 27. So we say guest 1, and now we cannot press Control C. I'm pressing Control C here and escape. Nothing happens. I have to select one or get out. Okay, and if I press Zork, it works. And when I'm done, I press I stay on exit here, so you can see here, or I can press cancel. So that's it. So this works. Now a few more things. As you can see here, when I do a telnet, it shows the version of the operating system. That's not good. It gives too many hints to the hackers, even though of course they can use nmap to still find out what operating system it is, but I want to disable that. How do we do that? We change this and we say 2.80, they don't know, on a IBM Z19. They wouldn't know the difference. So now if I do that, it says here ZOS on an IBM Z19. What do they know? So we change that as well, and we could also change, of course, the message of the day. Hackers, stay out. Okay. So so now we need to start to harden the server from all these bad guys here, and they will become worse and worse until the machine will crawl to a stop. So what we need to do is we need to use the iptables firewall. That's a part of the Linux kernel. iptables is a very capable firewall, and the only thing is we need to know which IPs to block. So what I do is the brute force attack. I block all of China, all of Afghanistan, all of Cambodia, and all of Russia. Yes, we keep out a lot of the good guys, but that's just the price for having so many hackers in those countries. So let me take here the recipe I use. That's not it. Okay. I have here a list of IPs. It's small right now, but doesn't matter. We're just copying them. So drop bad guys shell. And what we do here is we first clear the firewall rules, and then we start adding new rules. So 61 is 60% of the IPs in China, and I block a whole class A network here. /8 is a whole class A, and then I have a couple of class B networks. But for instance, now we can start seeing where people are logging in from, right? And so we have 66. So rather we could block this IP, just this one, right? But what's the point of blocking this IP? They're just going to go get another IP. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add them here. And then I'm going to block this IP. I'm going to block the whole class A network. I know it's brute force because we also stop a lot of the good guys in that country from accessing us, but again, I don't have to. There's no law that forces me to provide a game server to people in China. Sorry for all the good folks in China, but that's just the way I roll. So we're blocking now this whole network here, and I'll make these rules available in the description below this video. If you use these rules, you block out about 85 to 90% of the bad guys. Of course, if they're really intent on breaking into your machine, they probably have somewhere a couple of instances they stole from people on Amazon and Azure and Google Cloud, etc. in the Western world, and they will go there first and then launch an attack from there. But this machine is just not important enough for them to give away one of those jump servers they have stolen from people. So that's why in my case, since this is a low value target for them, it's effectively going to stop. So we just set up this additional rule, and now we execute this shell drop back guys. That's it. You'll see now that we're not going to get any more trouble from this guy here, and we can keep an eye on it here. But you will see there's going to be other attacks from other addresses, but not from that guy. And we also stopped a lot of the other countries like Afghanistan, Cambodia, and I stopped a bunch of other countries like that. So now we have both the game server set up. We've stopped a lot of the bad guys. Of course, if they're really intent on hacking into the server, they will still be able to do it, but for the most part, we kept them out. What else do we need to do? We got the Telnet server, we got the shell script, we got it hardened, we put in the firewall rules. I think that's about it. There's certain things we may want to. I mean, the number of games we have is really just Zork. We could install many other games, but I'll leave that up to you. It's just the rest is just changing this little script here. Let's make the font a little smaller. So again, this is the key part here. Dialog, this is all one line until here, right? So it starts here, title, we clear the radio list with all the options, and then we write the answer that the user selects into a temporary file, and then we just read from the temporary file and process it. That's really all there is to it, and it's really very, very simple. I like playing with Dialog. It's a fun little program, very nicely written, and there's so many things you can do with it. So whenever you want to write a simple application for your users, who says it has to be Windows, who says it has to be written in C, you can actually do it in shell script and harden it enough so that it's safe for real world users to use. So that's how simple it is. This can be done in minutes, and it's easy to follow and very easy to extend. So I think I explained this as easily as I could. If you have questions, then you can post those questions in the description below this video. And as I said, I'll also make the rules for the firewall. I will copy them in the description below this video so you can use them for yourselves. And this is it. It's running, and it's a lot of fun. Maybe over time I'll add more games, and now you can do that too. You don't need to use my Telnet game server. You can just do it on your own. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great summer, and goodbye.